Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Today we're going to keep on reading from the book الأجوبة الجلية في الأحكام الحنبلية, or the clear answer regarding the Hanbali Rulings by Shaykh Musa bin Issa al-Qaddoomi rahimahullah. We're going to be reading inshallah today from the section on the Invalidators of Wudhu. So let us begin inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma anfa'na bima alamtana wa 'allamna bima yanfa'una وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. قال المؤلف رحمه الله ونفع الله به وبعلومه وعلوم مشايخنا في الدارين ameen. So we're going to be starting, as we said, the section on the Invalidators of Wudhu. So this word in Arabic that they translate invalidators is nawaqid. And the word nawaqid is the plural of naqida. And al-Buhuti mentions that this means the mufsidat, or the corruptors. And as usual, we are reading from the translation by Sheikh Khalid Shah, and we are on page 37 of his book. Question number 22. How many invalidators of wudhu are there? And today's special number is number 8, so please, when we think about the nawaqid or invalidators of al-wudu, there are 8 things. So the author, rahimahullah, replies, there are 8 invalidators of wudu. The first one, which he letters as A, what exits from the 2 orifices, in parentheses, urethra and anus, whether little or a lot, tahir or najis. So this generally includes what exits from the 2 orifices. Of course, this includes the obvious things like urine and feces. This includes also rare things, so something that's rare would be included, would include something like flatulence from the front, but not the back. Please focus on this, not the back. And things that are tahir, that could be exiting, could be something like a baby, or what we would call like a rock, or maybe we would say like a kidney stone, that would be exiting even without any najasa. But to simplify things here, basically common things that we might expect, including urine, feces, blood, whatever comes out 2 orifices, front or back, is going to invalidate the wudu. Then the author goes on to say B, najasa exits from the rest of the body. If what exits is urine or stool, then wudu will always break. As for what is other than these 2, example blood, pus, and vomit, then it breaks if it is a lot according to the estimation of the person himself. I'll maybe comment just 2 things on the translation here. The Arabic begins with وَخُرُوجَ النَّجَاسَةِ, and I would prefer to translate that as the exiting of najasa. And then also when he says, for example, blood, pus, and vomit, if we refer to the Arabic, it says kaddam wal qay. So I think that the word pus is added here. The meaning is correct, but the word is technically not here in the Arabic text. So if you're interested to read more, I suggest you look at Sharh al-Muntaha by Imam al-Buhuti, but I think we can just quickly look, and there are a few things we can read from there and mention here. So Al-Buhuti mentions in the Sharh that Al-Khalal said, الذي استقرت عليه الرواية أن الفاحش ما يستفحشه كل إنسان في نفسه. So Al-Khalal said that the most established narration, meaning the narration from Imam Ahmed radiallahu anhu, is that the fahish, or this disgusting thing, is whatever makes the person feel disgusted himself. And Al-Buhuti says, لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك. So leave what you have doubt for what you don't have doubt. And this position about the disgusting thing, or najasa, that exits from the body, breaking the wudu, and this means from other than the two orifices. This is also the position of Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. And there's also the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he vomited and then made wudu. There are other things to read if you're interested, but this is just a general idea of the concept. Just to quickly clarify here, when we talk about al-fahish, the fahish is an attribute of the najasa. I mean, as we said, the main ruling is what is when the najasa is coming from any part of the body. But the najasa becomes fahisha when the amount is becoming larger, and that's what we mean here by it disgusts you. So maybe just, if you prick your finger, a few drops of blood come out, it doesn't disgust you. That's different than, a'udhu billah, you get into some kind of bad accident or cut yourself with a knife and a lot of blood's coming out. Then that's something that becomes repulsive. So we're not saying that we determine najasa by what is repulsive, but we're determining the large amount here that would be breaking the wudu according to what one finds repulsive. So this is a type of like a personal ijtihad. It's according to each person himself. Wallahu a'lam. The author goes on to say, see, losing one's senses through insanity or intellect is suspended. Example, sleep or the like thereof, which is generally not considered if it is a short sleep when firmly seated or sleeping while standing. Now quickly here, of course, I think we understand what insanity is, but I think that sleep might need a little more explanation. So here he talks about sleep that is yasiran urfan, so what is customarily a short sleep, and this is conditioned to be firmly seated or while standing. So this means not laying down. And we can also get some additional details on the definition of the small amount of sleep if we look at Hashiyat al-Ankari on Rawd al-Murba', where the author of the Hashiyah, rahimahullah, mentions what Az-Zarkashi says, where he said that sleep that invalidates the wudu is what overcomes the mind. So if you can hear speaking and understand it, then you're not sleeping. However, if you hear speaking or other noises, here I think it's speaking, if you hear speaking, but you don't understand what the speaking is, or you don't understand what people are saying, then this is the definition of yasir, as what's mentioned here in the book. So just to summarize, you're sleeping, you're not aware of anything, this is the deep sleep, regardless of sitting, standing, whatever, your wudu is broken. If you are so-called sleeping, or you consider yourself sleeping, but you hear speech and you understand it, this is in fact not sleeping. If you hear speech but you don't understand it, this is the light sleeping that the author is talking about. And for this type of sleeping, as long as you're firmly seated or standing, then it does not break the wudu. The author goes on to say, touching the private parts of a human, whether the penis or vagina or the anus, with the hand, without a barrier. So there are a few things to mention here. In this case, when we talk about the hand, Al-Buhuti clarifies in Arod al-Murba' that this is from the tips of the fingers to the wrist. So this is what we mean by hand in this case here. And also hand, we're talking about the skin of the hand. So it does not include nails, and it does include, very important point here, does include the top and the bottom of the hand of the toucher. This is mentioned in Nail al-Marib, the Sharh of Dalil al-Talib, and it also clarifies that when we talk about touching the farj, or the private parts of a person, this includes both that of an old and young person, meaning young toddlers, infants. So for those who are taking care of these kind of children and maybe cleaning them, this is a very also good point to mention. And yes, unfortunately, that is going to break your wudu if you touch their private parts while cleaning them, but please make note of that. Okay, before we continue, just a heads up, the next point may not be appropriate for all age groups. So that's just a warning before we start. The author goes on to say, E. Touching the skin of the opposite gender with lust, whether the one touched is dead, old, or mahram. So there are a few things just to specify here. We're talking about touching of the opposite sex. So man touching woman, or woman touching man. This would not apply when one is touching someone who's under the age of 7. And it does not include if you're touching things other than skin, such as hair, nails, or teeth. Also, the ruling of it breaking the wudu applies to the one who's touching and not the one who's being touched, even if the one who's being touched then discovers they have pleasure, it doesn't break the wudu. We can maybe just mention a few other things about two important words here. In the previous point, we mentioned wamas farj al-adami, or touching the private parts of a human, the word mas. And on this point, we're talking about limsa dhakar, bashrat al-unta. So here we have the word limps. So mes and limps are two words, and we should just specify what they mean in our own context here. If we look at Hashiyat al-Ankari on Arod al-Murba', he mentions that the mes is a touching with the hand, and the limps is more general than that, meaning any part of the body. And here we're talking about skin. Likewise, when we talk about the mes or touching with the hand, in our madhab, as we said, we're talking about both the top and bottom of the hand, but the madhab of Imam Malik and Imam Shafi'i, they specify that this is the bottom of the hand. So these are just some important points to take note of. And he also mentions that Ibn Fayruz has said that usually they use this word mess with talking about like the penis, for example, because most of the time that's what it would be touched with. Okay, the author goes on to say, F, washing a corpse or some of it. And Shaykhuna Dr. Mustafa, he mentioned that this is one of the mufradat or lone positions of the madhab, and that he specified, the washer is the one who is touching the body and or turning it, not the one who's pouring the water. And this ruling of washing the corpse that's breaking al-wudhu is applying to one who's washing both a Muslim or a kafir. Then the author goes on to say, G, eating of the camel meat, and in parentheses, not organs or its soup, and even if it's raw. Shaykhuna Dr. Mustafa, he mentioned that this is also from the mufradat or lone positions of the madhab. As the translator has put in the parentheses here, he's differentiated the camel meat from the organs and the soup, meaning the marak, so even the soup that's made from boiling the meat. And just on a quick side note, what he says is correct, but what's in the parentheses is not in the text. And I might prefer that he put that in a footnote, because it's not always clear, but that's just my opinion. But as I was saying, we're talking specifically about the meat of the camel, whether cooked or raw. We said it doesn't include organs, doesn't include soup, marak, the broth. Likewise, it doesn't apply to the camel milk either. So we've completed 7, we're now to number 8. So the author continues, H, becoming an apostate from Islam. May Allah protect us, and with Allah's safety. Na'udhu billahi min dhalika. So here the Arabic word is ridda, and yes, it's usually translated as becoming an apostate, but just to specify, it's not that when one leaves Islam they have to make al-wudhu. It refers to the person who's left Islam and then they're now coming back to al-Islam. That is the person at that time, he should make al-wudhu. And then the last thing the author mentions here under this question is everything that necessitates ghusl, necessitates wudhu, except death. So some of the previous recordings went a little bit long. I'm going to cut it here. I don't want that to become a tradition of these recordings becoming too long. So inshallah, in the next dars, we will talk about the rulings regarding doubts of tahara and things that are forbidden in the different states of impurity, inshallah. So let us end here. Please don't forget us in your dua, and don't forget all of our Muslim brothers and sisters, especially those now affected by calamities like our brothers and sisters in Al-Maghrib, in Morocco. May Allah send tranquility upon them. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.